Manufacturing Podcast. I am your host for the Destiny of Manufacturing. I am Dean Phillips, and right off the bat, I want to let everybody know that the Precision Metal Forming Association and the Destiny of Manufacturing will work together. The Destiny Manufacturing Podcast is, of course, powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association. I'm your host, Dean Phillips, and with me today from the Connecticut Technical Education and Career System, I have with me, drum roll please, we have their Associate Education Consultant, Larry Pomerleau. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dean. It's a pleasure to be part of this podcast. I look forward to it.
I swear it seems like I just talked to you a few minutes ago. That's an inside joke because we started this and unfortunately I made a mistake and had an issue with my computer, and now we're recording it again. But you don't need to know that. That's a little look behind the magic here when we're doing this. So Larry, right off the bat, we always like to know, what is your big takeaway looking to the future in the education and manufacturing arena?
Our big takeaway is to have the ability to create curriculum for all our manufacturing cluster programs that are going to meet the needs of individual industry around each of our technical high school going forward. It's to not be old school and steadfast in our curriculum, but to be able to change to meet the needs of industry around our tech schools.
Okay. And when you say cluster, can you explain that to people that may not be familiar with how that works?
So I'm in charge of what they call the manufacturing cluster, and within that cluster, we have several trades. One is precision machining technology, which is your tool room. Students learn lathe, mill, hand tools, CNC work, plasma programming, plasma cutters, and so on. We have our welding department where we have 3 welding programs that produce students that are American Society of Welding certified students. We have what we call our mechanical design and CAD program, where they're basically our students that learn SolidWorks. And we have our mechatronics / robotics and automation department, where our students are learning the ability to work in automated machinery, PLCs, robotics, cobots, so on and so forth.
Wow. That covers an awful lot, Larry.
I'm a busy guy.
I would say so. What is it that the work that the manufacturers are asking you for and hoping that you can deliver, and what are some of their needs?
Okay. So going to the future, our companies are asking a lot of us. They want a student that is able to do basic skills in whatever trade they're at, entry level skills. But more importantly, they want us to teach them about soft skills, how students should, act in a work environment. But going forward, what industry's telling us is that they want us to provide students that know what Industry 4.0 concepts are, lean manufacturing, more advanced thinking of robotics and automation, the ability to think outside the box.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's so kind of critical skills of problem solving, and can you think on your feet? And of course, do you have the basic skills of, can you read a tape measure? Do you know what technologies, just basic technology, hands-on things like your computer skills and things
Yeah.
like that? Now,
Our,
that's very interesting.
our curriculums across all the manufacturing cluster are heavy into blueprint reading, applied mathematics. We try to make the link between, on the academic side, what they get in math and how it's applied into the real world. What we're finding is, on the academic side, they're not as heavy in the applied math as they used to be. So our teachers are taking that on. Uh, so like how to use formulas out of machinery handbooks, trigonometry. That's another biggie that we kind of take on our own versus allowing the math teacher to do it because things are a little bit different in our trade. Just the
Mhm.
language of math in our trade, when a student is taught, 1/10 up in math is different than 1/10 out on the shop floor. There's a difference of about 3 zeros. So,
Good point.
yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it too. So if we look at give us a little bit of your background. How did you get involved in manufacturing and how did you get involved in education?
So my whole background is pretty much full circle. My parents were blue collar workers. My father worked in a company that ran cold headers, screw parts. My mother was a power press operator. So at supper time, the language was always discussion was always around what happened in the shop. When I became high school age, there was no doubt I was going to a technical high school, trade school, and I went to a school called Caner Tech, and I went into the tool and die program. Graduated, worked as an apprentice, worked for many years as a journeyman on stamping and drawn metal presses. I always continued my education at night, going to college, and I worked my way up into management. And about 22 years ago, I had the opportunity to become a teacher. So my wife is also a teacher, so that was something that was ingrained in my head. So I had the opportunity to do it. I was in a position where I could. So I became a teacher, ironically, at the same technical high school I graduated from as a high school kid. And I was able to work side by side with teachers I worked with from when I went to high school. I moved to another school north called Oliver Wolcott. I became the department head. And after 20 years later, I had the opportunity to move to a position at central office and become an educational consultant that allowed me to oversee all the programs. And so that's where I'm at now. I've been in this position now for about a year and a half. It's going well. My guiding light around all this is a couple things. Is one, to make sure we supply the needs of industry around the school that industry is recruiting our students from, and to look to the future with Industry 4.0, automation, robotics, and kind of merging everything together.
Yeah, yeah. Of all the technologies, what seemed to be the most in demand? Not well, let me put it this way because I think there's two different sides to this question. You can have a very popular class that a lot of people want to attend, but it isn't as desirable. What are the ones that the students really gravitate towards, and what are the ones that the manufacturers are saying we need more, and that's the most important?
Well, it's in precision machining, there's a clear divide between manual machinists, tool makers, and the CNC world. And what we need to do in schools is provide uh, to bring students to the education a basic level of CNC. So our students leave with a lot of conversational CNC, which is your ProtoTrack, Easy Mill type tool room type equipment, but they're also exposed to actual G&M code programming and Mastercam. Um,
Hmm.
so we provide that baseline. One, we have schools that are in areas like Central Connecticut, kind of South Central Connecticut, are heavy into CNC world. So our curriculum for that particular school, Platt Technical High School, is high end CNC programming, ec- uh, 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 um, G&M code programming, along with Mastercam. bringing in solid modeling, and they're equipped with 20 Oz TM1s and TL1s, and so we have to provide that, but they also learn the basic skills, and vice versa. So on the PMT side, that's definitely an area. On the welding side, we have all our welders learn welding techniques, but one school is pretty much by electric boat, so their focus is learning how to weld in a submarine, uh, tight compartment welding in a small closet type environment. And our other welding programs are are your conventional welding shops that produce parts. And ironically, they're probably like a tier two supplier to electric boat. So w- there's diversity in that area. On the mechatronics robotics side, there's a clear divide between, excuse me, warehouse type robotics and automation systems like your Amazon warehouses. A lot of our techs go there and do programming of those computers, those robots, if you want to call them that.
Mhm.
And on the manufacturing side, um, there's a clear indication going forward that there's not going to be enough employees to meet the needs of manufacturing going forward. So you can't make people, but you can make robots, and you can make cobots that work side by side with employees. So I see that's where we see a lot of divides. And we're attracting kids that are from robotics teams. That's something new that we haven't had a chance for. Whereas our trades that we have now, I would say most of the kids come in as freshmen, not knowing anything about the trade. We have an extensive recruiting process. But
Mhm.
what we see going forward with the robotics and automation, uh, kids have that tactile learner with video games, working on their cell phones, coming from a robotics team, the drones. So they're easily recognizable, and they're coming in with some level of basic skills for that area.
Wow. That's that's fantastic. When I think about my own experience, I went to a vocational high school, and I am so thankful I did because it's changed my life. Everything that I've done almost on a daily basis, I use the skills I learned in high school more than I did my skills in college. It's just those kinds of hands-on experiences teach you so much, and I can't emphasize how much value that adds to people. When you look at how the students are accepting of the new technologies, what do you see them expecting or wanting out of how education has changed over time? And what new technologies are you enlisting as you're going through and teaching them?
So for the majority of our shops, I hate using this word, but COVID created a culture of what we're doing right now. Students sitting in front of a computer doing stuff, and what we found is that um, students are burnt out. They don't want to sit in front of a computer screen. Before COVID, that was always a very popular thing. So on the precision machining side, although they don't sit in front of a computer a lot, we do a lot of SolidWorks and Mastercam training, but most, if not all, of our students are tactile learners. So to subject them in a seated position for any extended period of time is just detrimental. They need to do stuff. They need to work together. They need to build and make stuff.
Right.
On our and what we learned is on our CAD side, where that traditionally is always a trade where a student will sit down in front of a computer. What we do now is bring in solid modeling. We bring in additive manufacturing in that environment, so it allows the students to break up the monotony of sitting in front of a computer and allowing them to design a part and go make it on a 3D printer. And also, one of the things that I'm working for over the next 2 years is to link shops together. In the real world, you have an engineering department that has CAD people, you have a tool room, you have an assembly area, typically. We all have that in our tech schools, but we need to marry them together. And what we're doing now is starting next year, we're going to have summative assessments that require teams from our MDET program, our welding programs, and our precision machining programs to come up and solve a problem. We're going to present a scenario, and that does a lot of things. It shows them how to work together with people because the industry wants that.
Mhm.
It shows them, more importantly, how to think together, how to compromise. But the most important thing it teaches them is how to fail. We need to teach. It does. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but we need to teach kids how to fail and how to accept failure and how to profit from it and grow. So that's our future there.
I I cannot echo that sentiment enough because I seen it in my own kids that when you grew up a certain age, you've been told you could do everything, and you believe that you have unbelievable skills. But where they really fall down on, they have a lot of confidence, but the area where they fall down on is accepting failure and accepting responsibility on things because it's like, well, this is what you told me, so I did that, so it must be right. And just understanding that there could be things that happen and there can be areas where you didn't have the proper timeline. You didn't think that this was the highest priority. And all of that teaches us fundamental lessons that we need to experience. How many times does any of us taken something apart, put it back together, and have a piece left over? And I got to take it all apart again. And that's a valuable lesson.
Well, one of the if you talk to any of my students, there's two words I tell them you never should say when you're an apprentice or if somebody's teaching you. And those words are I know. So if somebody's taking the time to teach you, and if you know it, keep your mouth closed and learn because there are many different ways to do one task. And you may know one, but somebody's going to show you. So just be a sponge and absorb.
Those are great suggestions. I think that we need more of that kind of strategy when we're talking about education because I think we've kind of fallen down on that. Not and that isn't just education. That's even in the degree of parenting. Let your kids fail. So what? So they lost in a baseball game or they didn't do this or they didn't get a hit when they were at bat. Do you keep going until they get a hit? The kids have to understand that they're not going to be perfect at everything right out of the box. It's that ability to keep going and keep developing. And that's where I think a lot of kids have some really good opportunities to take it to the next level. So thank you so much for all your hard work on that. What what other areas that you do you think that manufacturers can contribute back to education and provide the most value? Is it just the jobs or is it also information?
Information, jobs, and a good handout every once in a while.
Sure.
Because we have our PAC meetings, our program meetings that allows us to change our curriculum based on what industry tells us. There's never enough money in public education to buy. The price of steel, the price of everything is skyrocketed. So a nice little handout every once in a while goes a long way. But most importantly, our students are in such demand that we find ourselves allowing students to go to work at a younger and younger age. So in the Connecticut Technical High School system, we have an extensive work-based learning program. So once a student has completed 10th grade and is the age of 16, they can go to work in industry. Whereas 20 years ago, we were sending out our seniors kind of like in the middle of the year because 20 years ago, industry wasn't in demand of people. What we're finding is schools are getting phone calls from manufacturers and saying, I want your best person, I want your best kid. And we're finding ourselves going back and back. So right now we have kids that are students that are leaving 10th grade in 2 weeks of age 16, and they're going to work as a pre-apprentice in a shop next in about well, they graduate, the school ends probably June 15th, 16th. So industry needs to understand that that student is not a senior. He or she's a sophomore. So there's a certain amount of education that that student hasn't been exposed to. And what we're finding is that there's a generation of people in the shops that are, the trainers. They're very, very nice. But like myself, they graduated from a trade school 20, 30 years ago. And they think that the student coming out today is of the same level and caliber of they were 20 and 30 years ago, and they're not. And they need to understand that you're getting a student at this age now. Not only are you providing them a source to go work, but you also now become the teacher, and
Yes.
you have to understand that that student hasn't been exposed to things. So for the most part, that happens. Um, our apprenticeship programs in the state of Connecticut are second to none. They do a really, really good job.
Right. So we're just about out of time. So tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
So I'm available at all times. You can contact me. My cell phone is 860-807-2052, or you can contact me at my email, which is Lawrence, Lawrence dot Pomerleau, Pomerleau at cttech.org.
Right. I really appreciate you being on here today, and like to thank, of course, Connecticut Technical Education and Career System for allowing us to have you on here today. So I guess one last question. What is it that made you get involved with the Precision Metal Forming Association?
So, part of our PAC committees, I became very good friends with Doug Johnson, who was a past president of the PMA. He's a president owner of Marion Manufacturing, and we developed a very good professional relationship. And he invited me along to be on the Southern New England board of the PMA as an educational representative. So that's how I got involved in that.
Wow. Phenomenal. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We really do appreciate it. It's critical to get the word out on education, and people like yourself are doing all the great work to make a difference in the future of manufacturing. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you for having me. Pleasure. Any other questions? Don't hesitate to give me a call.
Will do. Everybody, thank you so much for watching the show, and